All right, welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. We just saw a great clip of the film Fighting With My Family about WWE superstar Paige that opens nationwide today. The writer, director, and a man who's acting in the film Fighting With My Family, Stephen Merchant. Good to see you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
I am a big fan of yours.
Oh, well, great.
And I don't usually start interviews that way. But
well, I feel like that's it. I may as well leave now.
By the way, that's a walk-off. That's a walk-off. I've been a big fan of yours, obviously, since the Office came across the Atlantic here, the UK office. So thank you for being here right off the bat. Why'd you do this movie? Why were you? Are you a wrestling fan?
I've never, prior to this, seen any wrestling. Never watched wrestling. Well, that's not true. I watched a little bit of British wrestling with my grandfather in the 70s. If you've never seen British wrestling
walk me through it.
From the 70s, if your image of wrestling is people like Dwayne Johnson and Stone Cold Steve Austin, ripped guys doing backflips, British wrestling in the 70s was really overweight men just sort of thwapping their bellies against one another. They had names like Big Daddy. There was a guy called Giant Haystacks, because if there's one thing that strikes fear, it's hay. And that was and this was so popular on British TV in the 70s, and there was nothing athletic about it. And I mean, it was really. I mean, we have very low expectations for entertainment in the 70s,
right?
And so that was my knowledge of wrestling.
There's Big Daddy. We're showing on the screen. Nice hat, nice cape,
and you can
nice,
see,
man.
There's Giant Haystacks.
We had Lena Headey in this week, and
the exact same two people that
she named the same two people that she used to watch.
That's the only ones I remember, and they were on a show called World of Sport, which seemed a bit rich. I mean, they've got the physiques of darts players, and so that was all I ever saw. And even as a kid, I was like, "What is this?" I didn't understand whether it was sport or entertainment. I had no idea. And so when this project came along, I mean, I guess I had a vague idea of people like Hulk Hogan in the 80s, but I never watched WWE. And so this documentary got sent to me by Dwayne Johnson about this family of British wrestlers. And I sort of sat down, if I'm honest, slightly reluctantly thinking, I'll watch it because The Rock has sent it to me. And you do what The Rock tells you. Yeah. And I just fell in love with this family. And so charmed by them, and they all wrestle. Mum, dad, 3 kids. The dream is to get the kids into WWE, which is obviously the big leagues. They're just playing to sort of 2-bit, venues in and around small towns in England. And the brother didn't get signed. Paige, the daughter, did, and she went off to America at a young age to kind of train with WWE, and sort of carrying the weight of the family dream and her own dreams with her. And it's just this great kind of Rocky-style, true-life underdog story.
So how did you get hooked up with Dwayne Johnson? I mean,
thank you for asking.
Is there a history in that regard?
I have known Dwayne for about 10 years. I knew Dwayne when he was still in shape. And
so you go way back.
We go way back. I did a movie with him called Tooth Fairy. You're welcome. And we stayed in touch over the years, and we sort of had a good rapport, I think, doing that movie.
Yes.
And he, like I say, he saw this documentary about this family and became involved with their lives. And I think along the way realized it would make a good feature. And I'm fairly sure Dwayne only knows 2 British people, me and Jason Statham. And he goes to Statham for, when he needs a smaller guy that he can pretend to beat up on camera.
Yeah.
And he comes to me if he needs someone to write something. And so we started working on the project.
So you're that go-to guy.
I'm the go-to guy.
For him.
Well, Statham can do, 60 sit-ups in 30 seconds, but I can do 40 words a minute on the word processor.
He's more the Guy Ritchie guy in the relationship,
That's it.
right? Like
Exactly.
He's in those movies, like Lock, Stock, and all that sort of business. So, but for you, the light-hearted comedy.
That's the guy you come to.
The uplifting story of Brits turning young lady into superstars. International.
I'm your man.
You're the guy. You're that go-to. I got a script for you.
Yeah.
No, I don't actually have a script, but it's so much fun. And like we said, we had Lena Headey in earlier this week, and her scenes. She's not in any of the scenes with The Rock. Obviously, she's part of the family in which the fighting is taking place.
Yeah.
And so when it all comes down to it, are you now a wrestling fan?
I went to WrestleMania with Dwayne, and that was, I call him Dwayne. And that was eye-opening because that was 100,000 people. It was in Dallas, and the crowd are electric. And then when you see these guys and these women just actually at work in the ring, and you see this combination of the athleticism and the stunt work and the showmanship and the performance and the choreography, it's really, really entertaining. It's enormously thrilling to watch. And I really had to immerse myself in the wrestling world to understand this movie. And I went to matches and I went to the training facility, and my respect for them has really gone through the roof. I'm a big admirer of them.
What is it like going to WrestleMania with Dwayne Johnson? That Elvis is in the building.
It's unbelievable. It's extraordinary. The guy walked out on stage with a flamethrower and set fire to a 8-foot sign of his name, and he milked that for 10 minutes. Before he said a word.
Milk a flamethrower for 10 minutes?
It was unbelievable. Well, you walk to the left, flame, walk to the right, flame,
okay.
And it was so, and they did not stop screaming and cheering for that guy the whole time, because he, like you say, it's like Elvis has come back when they see him. I've never known anyone with that sense of charisma and that ability to just work a crowd. But it actually worked in our detriment, because we had this big scene in the movie and we shot it. We had 1 hour after a WWE telecast on a Monday Night Raw at the Staples Center. And they said, we'll keep the fans back. And we only had an hour. And I said to Dwayne, he was going to come down. He was going to kind of MC the event. But I said, please don't get carried away. We've only got an hour. Guy goes out there in front of the fans, did 20 minutes on the mic.
No way.
He's making phone calls. He's doing selfies. He's doing the catchphrases. Can you smell? I'm like, sat up in the stands thinking, yeah, we can smell what you're cooking, mate. Get out the ring. But he was amazing, because he just played that crowd like an orchestra and was just so perfect for us to be able to get the shots we needed. He's extraordinary.
Fighting with My Family, again, theaters nationwide right now. I'm speaking with the writer and director, Stephen Merchant. You also act in the film. I have to ask you about The Office, if you don't mind.
Of course.
How did it come about with you and Ricky Gervais creating The Office? How did you come up with the idea?
Well, we worked together at a radio station. He was my boss, essentially. And
was he like David Brent?
Not at all, because he was even lazier than David Brent. He did very little work. I'm fairly sure the only reason I got hired by him was because my resume was on the top of the pile.
Okay.
And he couldn't be bothered to work through the others. He goes, this guy will be fine. He calls me in and we hit it off, and we would, just joke and riff about observations of office life. I realized Ricky was going to get me fired, so I jumped ship, joined the BBC. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to make a little training video, and I called Ricky and I said, let's do the office stuff we did. And we made this little tape, and it just came alive. Ricky's performance was electric. The observations felt fresh and kind of authentic, and it just began to snowball from there. Although the BBC did a test screening of the first episode of The Office, the British version, and it scored the lowest audience score ever. The only thing that was lower was women's lawn bowls. Which is sort of like, like kind of like bocce or something. And so that was the only thing that was considered more boring than The Office. But they stuck with it anyway, and here we are.
What a juggernaut it has turned into. So did you or Ricky Gervais ever have a boss that basically wanted to be popular rather than actually efficient and a leader? Like, did you ever have somebody like that you worked for?
We had both worked in completely different places, and we'd worked with similar kind of guys. And even when we were working at the BBC, people would say, no one's like this, and you'd walk around the BBC like, here's one right here. They're everywhere, really. I don't care what job you're doing. I don't care if you're working, for NASA or you're in the mob. I think there's these same kind of people.
And
everywhere.
then just the way you shot it. It's now so many different shows have sampled.
Man, I wish I could get a cut of all those copycats.
Of all those shows where they just zoom in on a mock documentary of
someone just looks in the lens.
Where did you pick that one up from? Were you inspired?
We shot it documentary style because it seemed like just the quickest way to shoot. We didn't have to do lots of clever lighting. We could kind of move fast.
Right.
And at the time in England, there was a real spate of these kind of fly on the wall documentaries where regular people were becoming celebrities off the back of these shows. There was one about a driving school. There was one about a cruise ship. So it was kind of in the air, and so I think we kind of wanted to satirize that and play with that idea. But like you say, everyone does it now.
It's like de rigueur to do something like that right now.
Yeah.
Is there ever what's your favorite Office moment that hit the cutting room floor that you could not put on the air for some reason, or never made it on the air?
Well, I remember we used to cut things out because we were trying to keep a tone that felt authentic and real, and anything that kind of veered too much, felt too silly or too crazy. But like Ricky does in the British version does this dance, which became a kind of iconic moment. And I had to persuade him to let me include that because he was like, it seems too crazy. No one's going to buy it. So that almost hit the cutting room floor, and I had to fight him to keep it in.
Well done, Stephen Merchant. Well done. Who's your favorite character from the American version?
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I have to say, what was exciting about going to see those guys at work is it was like we'd created a show in England, and then like amazing talent had kind of just taken it and were running with the ball. And I mean, you could go down there and see Steve Carell. That guy can improvise stuff funnier than you can ever write. You know, it was kind of so exciting to watch him at work. I love that show largely because it pays for my house.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to choose one?
I can't choose a particular individual, because I'll just upset the others.
You will. It's amazing how popular it has become.
It's great. And it's very popular with like younger teenagers who I guess haven't even worked in an office.
Well, because, we all know people who are just basically putting on a whole bunch of BS.
Right.
And skating through into a position of power over people who know this is a con. I mean, we all have been in situations like that.
But also, it makes no difference. It's like you put these shows on the air, you highlight these kind of people. And I mean, I remember I'd be walking with Ricky Gervais and people would come up to me and be like, hey, you know that boss you play? I'm just like that guy. And they'd say it like a badge of honor. You're like, that's not a good thing.
Have you gotten into any American sports in any way, shape, or form at all?
I like to go to basketball games because I'm 6'7" and I feel I'm among my people.
Okay. So did you ever netball? Did you ever do the netball situation?
I played a little bit of basketball,
okay.
But it turns out I have no hand-to-eye coordination whatsoever. So, never got into that. Played a little bit of cricket, but was always... I remember the day one of going to play cricket, as I was leaving the house, my mother said, be careful, because there was a boy in my school and he took a cricket ball in the head and he got brain damage. Bye! Okay. And sent me off. And I just was petrified the whole time. And then the seasons changed and rugby season began. Same thing again. I'm leaving. My mother goes, what are you doing today? Playing rugby. Oh, be careful. Boy in my school broke his neck playing rugby. Oh, geez. And so... I never really
you found the right spot for yourself. Is it true, last one for you, Stephen Merchant, that you attended the Patriots victory parade? Is that a true story?
I've been doing a promotional tour for this movie and I've been flying around and it seems like I'm kind of following the news cycle. I landed in Chicago as the polar vortex descended. I think we were on the same flight. And then, a few days later, I come out my hotel room and I'm right on the parade route of the Patriots celebration, and they are marching right past my bedroom. I can't get any sleep. They're keeping me awake.
Oh my God!
I was furious.
Your timing sucks.
Yeah.
So you just went out and you joined it though, right?
Of course. I took off my shirt, painted my face in the colors,
started
jumped
throwing beers at the parade route. Exactly. Hey, congrats on this film, Fighting with My Family. It is so much fun, and it's been fun meeting you. Please come back anytime.
Thank you. I really appreciate having me. Thanks,
Again,
guys.
big fan of everything that you put out there. Stephen Merchant, at Stephen Merchant with a PH on Twitter and also on Instagram. And check out Fighting with My Family, opens nationwide today.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.